All right, I think we're going live.
All right.
Hi, you've reached Jose Moreno. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you.
The Huddle, Nine's weekly sports talk show, streaming on all your favorite platforms. I'm Jason Barr, joined as always by Pat Paris. Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
Good. A lot to talk about, Jason. We said it at the end of last program. You discussed it, how we've got so many sports going on at once, and we really do. We got to talk about almost every one of them today. So a lot to get into.
All right, we'll start with U of A football. And, there's a couple ways to look at this, coming off a 49-22 loss to Oregon. And, yeah, you can sit here and you can knock the defense, or you can say, you know what, Oregon's done that to every single other team. But at the end of the day, this defense does not look good. It's not like this is the only game they've struggled in. Yes, they came up with a couple of big stops against North Dakota State to win that game. But this defense is a problem as they're now entering the teeth of the schedule.
Yeah, the defense obviously is the weakness of the team right now. And you just keep waiting for them to maybe find the personnel or maybe get coached up to the point where they're going to start making some plays. But really all they've done is, stepped up in competition and it just exposed more of the deficiencies of that defense. It's an area that'll need to be addressed during the offseason with recruiting and the transfer portal. But in the meantime, guys just have to start making plays. Jed Fish says it as well, and I say it as I'm screaming from the stands, Jason. Somebody make a play. Just somebody make a play. And there are athletes on that defense. We've talked about the strength being the front four, but even they're being negated at times, especially in the run game. They put a hat on a hat. Sometimes they'll double team one of those front four guys, and all of a sudden there's gaping holes and there's nobody there. We've said it for, I think, 3 weeks in a row. There's nobody there to fill in those holes. So it's frustrating when it comes to the Arizona defense.
You have to wonder how much better it's really going to get this year. Pat, I think that Jed Fish needs to attack recruiting and attack the transfer portal on the defensive side of the ball, the way he's attacked the transfer portal and recruiting on the offensive side of the ball last year.
Yeah.
And he's an offensive coach, so you expect him to, favor a little bit more towards the offense, and you expect, offensive coach to have a team that's a little bit more offensive minded and be a little stronger on that side of the ball. But you saw how much energy and how much effort he went into the transfer portal and recruiting this past offseason on offense. They've got to do the same thing with a lot more players than just Hunter Echols going into the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and at the same time, Jason, this season, though, the offense is going to just have to say, it's on us,
They might have to win some shootouts.
And Jed Fish talked about that too, is, look, I gathered my guys together on Sunday and I said, look, don't worry about them. They'll take care of themselves. That's the issue the defense has to take care of. You got to worry about yourself because, Jason, they're 3-3. First and foremost, they're 3-3. We would have taken that. In fact, you and I both predicted they would be 3-3. You said they'd win 5 games. I said they'd win 4 games this season. And this is exactly how we thought it would play out at 3-3. But what we're not seeing in those 3 losses is we're not seeing the offense do what they're able to do in those 3 wins. Yes, the competition's way, way better in those 3 losses. You're talking about Mississippi State, Cal, and Oregon. At least Mississippi State and Oregon have much better players than Arizona does, and you would expect that. Cal, I'm not so sure, but I did some number crunching real quick, Jason, and I don't want to put it on one player. It's not on one player, but he's the quarterback, and Jayden de Laura has looked really great at times. And then in those 3 games that they lost, he's looked a little pedestrian. He's looked a little bit shaky at times, and the numbers bear that out. In the 3 wins, he's throwing almost 70% completion rate. He's got 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. In the 3 losses, he's got a 56% completion rate. He's thrown 4 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That's going to happen against great teams. I get it, but there's a pretty stark difference between the 3 wins for Jayden de Laura and the 3 losses for Jayden de Laura. they're going to need to see him be more accurate first and foremost and find the open man. There's open receivers, and he's not finding them.
Well, it's a lot easier to make good decisions and to find the open receiver when you're playing competition that's not an SEC team or a 12th ranked team in the country. Yeah, the other thing I'm seeing from Jayden DeLore, and definitely he's an upgrade from, from Gunnar Cruz and Will Plummer, and I guess you could say Jordan Mcleod, who unfortunately is no longer on the team. Jordan Mcleod was kind of like a point guard type quarterback last year, who I thought did a good job, but
yes,
he wasn't going to play, and who knows why he's not on the team anymore. But also, I'll tell you what, Pat, I'd be surprised if an NFL scout said that he had an NFL arm.
No. You look at the throwing motion. It takes every bit of his body strength to make those passes.
That's what it is.
And when he has time and when he has confidence, he is accurate. He does get the ball.
Oh, it's not the NFL. I'm just
right.
Yeah.
But the problem Jed Fish pointed it out as well, both on Saturday night, and then he pointed out especially yesterday during his news conference. You've got a Jayden DeLore who is probably not as comfortable as he should be. There were times where he was getting pressured. Yes, there were some times he made some poor decisions or poor throws, and he wasn't pressured yet. I think he thought he was about to be pressured. And you know what happens when quarterbacks lose a little bit of their faith or a little bit of their confidence? Things start to go in the wrong direction. Let's hope that he can bounce back. It's not going to be easy going to Washington to play a Huskies team that's got to be really ornery after losing to ASU.
This was supposed to be a 5-game, 5-ranked team stretch. Washington not ranked now because of what happened with the upset loss against ASU. But this was the 5-game team of the schedule that was going to be so hard that we were hoping they would just get one win. And like you said, just psychologically, Washington returning home, coming off a bad loss, might be a little tougher for Arizona going up to Seattle, which has never been easy for this team.
You remember what we were doing in October of 2007? Because that's the last time Arizona went to Seattle and won. It's a long time ago, Jason.
Yeah, lots happened since
15
October.
years ago. Remember what you were doing 15 years ago?
A lot's happened. Of course, we think of one of the greatest plays in Arizona football history, though, did happen with the Leap by the Lake.
That's right.
With O.J. Jenkins, and so it's not impossible, but it's good. This is a tough stretch of the schedule. All right, so the Wildcats 3-3, 1-2 in the Pac-12. We talked for a minute about the Cardinals. Well, Kyler Murray really messed up. He really did. You have got to know it's 3rd and 1, and you can't spike the ball there. Now, listen, that's not the only reason they lost the game. The kicker's got to make that kick. And you could say, oh, well, Kyler Murray's not an elite quarterback because he doesn't know down and distance. Well, we saw that last year with Tom Brady make a mistake and he didn't get the 3rd and the 4th down right. But the difference is Tom Brady's won 7 Super Bowls. Kyler Murray's not won 7 Super Bowls. And I don't fault the slide. You got to slide where you're going to slide to prevent getting hit. So it's 3rd and 1. You don't get the first down. It's like the play-by-play announcer said, you got to run forward there for a yard. Yeah.
No, that's it. You have to know where the down is. It's almost like he thought, okay, I'm almost there. If I slide, I'll be there. But remember, it's where you begin your slide that they mark you down, and that cost him a yard. And then in the hurry up, just spiking the ball, it was tough to watch. And as it played out, you just had this sense that that this game was theirs for the taking, and then they just blew it. And Kyler Murray, Jason, somewhere along the line, and you and I could debate this, but somewhere along the line, the NFL started paying players instead of what they've done for them. They started paying some of the players what they hope they'll do for them, or what we expect this player to do. And I'm not talking about, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Those are the top 2 paid biggest contracts in the NFL for good reason. Patrick Mahomes has won a Super Bowl. Josh Allen, an elite quarterback, one of the best, if not the best quarterback statistically right now. He is the best quarterback, fantasy player wise. Russell Wilson's contract, we can debate that one all day. $242.5 million. He's number 3 on the list. But at number 4 and at number 5 on the biggest valued contracts in the NFL right now, Kyler Murray, $230.5 million. Deshaun Watson, $230 million. You know how many combined playoff wins those two guys have? And that's Deshaun Watson, who's 1-3. Kyler Murray is 0 for 1. I don't understand why we pay these players that much money when they have not been
Wait
proven
a second. Is this
whatsoever.
the same guy who a couple of months ago was like paid DeAndre Ayton a ton of money after he got outplayed by Giannis in the NBA Finals? Now all of a sudden you don't want to pay
But here's the difference. DeAndre
wait
Ayton
a
has been
second
to
here.
the
That's just totally contradictory.
DeAndre Ayton has been the center, one of one of the top 3 best players on a team that made the finals
Kyler
and made a
Murray's
deep
one of the
playoff
top 3
run 2
players
years
on
in a
the
row.
team.
Jason, there's a big difference between making a playoff run, being a potential NBA champion because of some of the work you've done to help that team, and then a Kyler Murray who's 0 for 1 in the playoffs and a Deshaun Watson who's 1 for 3. And the other difference was DeAndre Ayton was going to get that money somewhere else, easily going to get that money somewhere else.
Kyler Murray, where do you think this Cardinals team would be without Kyler Murray right now?
But look where they are with Kyler Murray. Look where they are with him, and now they're saddled with him for
probably
years.
be 0-5 without him. You see what happens with these teams with quarterbacks.
But they're not going to make the playoffs. So you're going to have to decide. Here we go again with this Arizona Cardinals. With all these quarterbacks they draft every year, and this one they manifested by giving this ridiculous contract to without him proving anything. I hope Kyler Murray proves me completely wrong. I don't see any reason to believe that he's going to, but I hope he proves me completely wrong. So now what do you do? What do you do?
Listen, Pat, that kicker makes that kick. We're having a completely different conversation right now.
Maybe so, but we wouldn't have done that bonehead play that he slides a yard early.
But if the kicker made the kick, we wouldn't be talking about that. We'd be talking about what happened in overtime.
This comes from a point where in the NFL, I think that guys are getting paid that probably don't deserve to get paid yet, that haven't even had a resume that would warrant that kind of a salary. That's where I come from.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, talk about an overreaction. So in the first, I believe, in the 2 weeks prior, I believe there were 10 roughing the passer penalties called, and then the last 2 weeks or since Tua, it was 14. So there's been an increase in the roughing the passer penalty calls. Obviously, we've got an overreaction right now from NFL officials. We saw what happened with Brady. That was obviously not roughing the passer. We saw what happened and that had an impact on the game. We saw what happened in the Chiefs-Raiders game. I think we're going to see that quelled a little bit and fixed. But right now, you just sack the quarterback normally, and it's a roughing the passer call in the NFL.
Right.
And it's because of what happened with Tua.
Yeah, and I understand that, and the Associated Press says that the NFL will look into it. Now, they're not going to change the rule in the middle of the season, and they don't need to change the rule in the middle of the season.
Don't have to. They can just interpret it better.
Right. What they will do is they'll send out a little memo, or they'll have a conference call with all the officials, and they say, guys, maybe we went a little bit too far the other way, and we don't want quarterbacks getting hurt, but come on. Those 2 calls that you're talking about, were no-brainers. That's what was so befuddling about the whole thing is Tom Brady. If you're a Tom Brady fan, you say, well, he didn't talk his way into that. If you're not a Tom Brady fan, you think he talked his way into getting that penalty. The one last night was really a head scratcher. I had a coach once tell me that all he asked for the referees to do is call what they see, not what they think they see. In other words, make sure you know what you're seeing as you call it. Don't just kind of look at the end result of something and go, oh, well, that must have been a penalty because this happened. You've got to really see it. And the one last night, the sack strip fumble thing, that one really is a head scratcher. Jason.
That was a terrible call. We got a comment from Tim Barkley that's going to be right up your alley, Pat. Sugar Skull signed Mike Jones today.
I brought the press release. I was going to bring that up.
He's going to come back in his 4th season. So that's good to see. Tucson Roadrunners start on Friday at Henderson. Yeah. Coyotes start tomorrow. 6 former Roadrunners on the Coyotes opening night roster.
Yeah, well, that's great. I just real quick on Mike Jones. He is the Tucson Sugar Skulls, right? 4 years now. This will be their 4th season. He's been, an IFL All-League, at least in consideration for MVP, but he's been the All-League running back all 4 years. He's pretty amazing. It's the difference in that league versus the old arena league is running the football matters now. In this indoor football league, you can make a living running the football. And the Sugar Skulls, rely on Mike Jones to score a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, 3 different coaches, so that tells you the respect he has around the league. Tim Barkley, I'm not sure when the Sugar Squirrels schedule is coming out. That seems
I
a
think it's
little.
next week. I think I saw a tweet on the IFL. I'm sorry, it was the Instagram post that I believe it comes out next week. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Okay. Today, Arizona men's basketball media day. So we heard from Tommy Lloyd. We talked to a few of the players. One thing that you and I just mentioned before the show, interesting question somebody asked. It was really along the lines of, hey, do you really have the same firepower? Do you really have the same talent as you did last year? Heck, you had 3 guys go to the NBA draft with Ben Mathurin, Dalen Terry, and Christian Coloco. Is this recruiting really could be as good as it was last year? And I thought Tommy Lloyd made an interesting comment. He said, well, you're looking at where they were at the end of last year, not where they were at the beginning of last year. And it kind of reminded me of Dalen Terry, who needed footwork boot camp at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense. He even said, even Ben Mathurin needed a little bit of guidance and a little bit of coaching, and he took to it. And Dalen Terry needed a little coaching, as you mentioned, and he took to it. And then you look at Christian Coloco. Christian Coloco literally went from a not, I won't say an afterthought, but a guy that you were kind of counting on, but you didn't really know what you're going to get, to becoming a dominant player in the Pac-12, and all 3 of them get drafted in the first in the 2 rounds of the NBA draft. So you look at those guys, and they took to coaching, and that's the key, Jason. If you're willing to come to the University of Arizona under Tommy Lloyd, a couple of things that are going to happen. One, you're a high-profile program because you're University of Arizona. But the second thing is Tommy Lloyd and his coaching staff, and let's give his coaching staff a lot of credit too. They've been able to coach up a lot of players. They've been able to take guys, and throughout the course of a 30 game schedule, whatever it is, they've been able to elevate them to levels that they played better than any of us really thought in some cases, and enough to win a Pac-12 title. Can they do that again this year? I don't see why not. They've got the makings of a couple of guys that are back in Pelle Larsson and Azuolas Tubelis, and then you add in some of these great young players that have come, or the transfers that are upperclassmen. I think they can. I think they can improve, Jason, and we'll see how far they can make it a run in the tournament.
Yeah, Coloco's improvement was the most impressive, being that it was sophomore to junior year. I usually see that improvement from freshman to sophomore year. I think we actually have a pretty good idea of who the starting 5 is going into the season. Kirk Kriisa and Courtney Ramey are going to be in the backcourt, probably with Pelle Larsson, and I would say Azuolas Tubelis and Umar Ballo. And I think maybe the first guy or 2 coming off the bench is going to be Henry Vesar. And we'll have to see if it's Cedric Henderson Jr.
Henderson, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, or it's Udama Ball's in there.
I think Adama Ball, Jason, he showed flashes last year.
He
may force his way into that rotation, not as a starter. He's probably better coming off the bench, but he'll force his way into some playing time. I'm willing to bet.
I know. I talked to him today, a little bit in English.
Oh, a little bit in French.
A little bit in French, yeah.
How did he say your French was?
He didn't say anything. He's too nice a guy. He spoke slowly enough so that I could understand his French, and it still wasn't slow enough.
Yeah.
Although it's hard because you're thinking about the next thing you're going to say. It's not easy. But yeah, he's a guy you want to root for sure. So I think that's the. I think they're going to be strong on the front court. It'll be exciting to see how much better Umar Ballo is. And I asked Azuolas Tubelis, who really had a rough March Madness, about it, and he said he just put it behind him, right away. Was the answer that he gave. So because that was one of the dark spots on last year's team was his performance in March Madness, not just in the Sweet 16, but actually in the 2 games prior, when they were playing in San Diego. And so you wonder, was he hurt? Is he not a big game player? It just kind of leaves a bad taste a little bit in your mouth from his performance at the end of last year.
But that's the beauty of any sport, Jason. You get to turn the page and you start anew. It's a brand new season. As Tommy Lloyd points out, he enjoys each team individually because of the journey they take, and the journey begins, with the off-season workouts and the getting to know the guys, and then it travels throughout the season with the first practices. Then it gets more physical. Then all of a sudden you're playing games in the non-conference. Then you're in the Pac-12 conference, and so that that journey that he'll take will be different for Azuolas Tubelis this year than, say, it was last year. And you hope by the time you get to March Madness, when the lights are shining the brightest and the pressure's on the most, he'll draw from that experience where he, by all accounts, underperformed. And maybe this is how he turns it around with the help of Tommy Lloyd and his staff to get him going, and he'll make it turn into a positive. But we won't know until we get there.
And also the baseball playoffs are now in full swing. A little local connection here with Terry Francona, the Guardians manager, going up against the Yankees. Be fun to see Francona and his team make another run at it, and we'll see what he could do. Any thoughts on the baseball playoffs? I know you're a big fan.
Well, if you would have, before the All-Star break, you would have said the Yankees were the shoe-in in the American League, and you would say the Dodgers in the National League. But now, probably still the Dodgers, but you have to play. You have to play these series out. I thought the St. Louis Cardinals are playing excellent baseball, but in that 3-game series, they lost 2 straight to the Phillies, and they're out. I mean, that happens. Some of the teams that you thought maybe would be still playing in the second round are gone already. I like the fact that, the Yankees aren't playing all that. They aren't playing like they did in the first 3 months of the season. So we'll see. Maybe Terry Francona and the Indians can make a little noise. These are 5-game playoffs. Remember this round, they're 5 games. So again, that's a shorter series than the 7-game. Things can happen differently than they do in a 7-game series.
What was your take on Buck Showalter going out to the mound with the Padres pitcher with the weird stuff on the ear? It was kind of interesting hearing the commentators saying, "Oh, they're talking about a spin rate, and the spin rate on the ball was so much greater than what it normally does." Then you go look, and he's got something on his ear.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever it was, and then you go sweater, what have you. And then the Mets can't touch him. I thought, for me, it was worth a shot for Buck Showalter.
Right.
You don't have to be right. You're trying to change the momentum of the game. Maybe there is something there. It is odd when somebody performs that much better. I don't have any problem with Buck Showalter and what he did the other day.
No, I don't either. But remember, they've instituted this thing now. Every time the pitcher comes off the mound at the end of an inning, the home plate umpire goes up and checks all that. So
I don't think they don't do that after every inning in the postseason.
Oh, I think they do. Yeah. Watch. They do. They still do. They check them. That's kind of been a new like a new policy that's been instituted.
I thought they had lessened up on that.
I saw it the other day. So I saw it in the St. Louis Cardinals series when they lost to the Phillies. So I'm assuming they'll continue that. My point is, that doesn't mean you can't have something and then figure out a way to get rid of it. They're not checking that close. They're just looking at your hands and a little bit of your glove to see if there's anything residual effect that might be there. But yeah, you got to try anything. There's a little gamesmanship too, and you're trying to fight hard for your guys.
All right. So on that note, anything else jumping at you here on this Tuesday?
Well,
we get a little bit of everything there.
Yeah, we got a lot of everything going on. You talked from baseball to football, and when it comes to this, I want to get back real quick to the quarterback situation. I want to throw this out at you. We didn't have time to talk about it at the time, but you've got a situation where you've got some guys like in Dallas. You've got Dak Prescott coming back. What do you do there when your team is 4-0 without Dak? Clearly he's the guy, but I guess what you don't do is you don't rush Dak Prescott back, because the Cowboys in that now suddenly your NFC East is a real beast now of the division.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the Giants beat the Packers in London. So you got the Giants
came back. They were down 20-10.
And the Eagles now 5-0. Shouldn't be. I think the Cardinals should have won that game. But yeah, you got the NFC East as the toughest division in football, arguably with 3 teams, at least in there, and the Guardians the Commanders with their QB issue. But
you don't want your head coach calling out your veteran quarterback like Carson Wentz got.
There's a way to do it. Arians called out Brady a couple years ago.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful about it. You gotta get the message across, and you better be right as well. And there's a little bit of firing somebody up in that. So I'm okay with that. And if I'm Wentz, you know what? You got to play better.
He does have to play better. It's funny. I think the first couple of weeks he was He was the yardage leader and had touchdown leader, and then it just all went bad for him. So I don't know. There's Jason. My overall comment about the NFL so far this season. It's been a strange year in the sense that your past performance is no indicator of future success, right? It used to be that a football team had a 4 or 5 year window. We used to call it a window, right? Where NFL teams would have this window. The windows aren't lasting as long, it doesn't seem like. So in other words, you've got these teams that you think are shoo-ins. The LA Rams win the Super Bowl. Well, they've been good for a few years. They should be good again this year. They're not very good right now. You've got other teams. The Bengals are not all that good right now. You can think of other, not just the Super Bowl teams from last year, but teams that you thought were going to be really good are not necessarily all great right now. And it's interesting to see, part of it's parity. Part of it's just really hard to win football games in the NFL. And it didn't used to be that way in the sense that the upper echelon teams seem to always just win. And now that's not the case every given Sunday.
Or do you think it's going to be the Chiefs and the Bills at Orchard Park for the AFC Championship game?
Probably.
It's hard to see that that's not the case.
Probably. Yeah. Probably. But even the Chiefs have struggled at times this year. Well, even the Bills have struggled at times. Haven't looked great at times this year.
I happen to be rooting very hard for Tom Brady, and part of the reason why is because can you imagine if he played and ended his career here in 100 miles away in Phoenix for another Super Bowl? I think that would just be one of the biggest sports stories you could ever find. I know that's anticipatory and small chance of happening
down the road. Yeah.
But
he is here on Christmas Day too, playing the Cardinals.
That's right. So that'll be a story of whether or not he can come back in a few weeks. So yeah, I mean, he's got a history here with the Super Bowl. I was here for the one against the Seattle. I wasn't here for the prior ones. So I think that'd be a great story.
Yeah,
so I'm actually kind of
it'd be a nice storyline.
Rooting hard for him. Rooting hard for him. All right, Alex Steiniger, thank you so much. Alex Steiniger is a coworker of ours. So sorry I didn't. That's a little inside joke there.
Not everyone can be Tom.
So I'll just let everybody in real fast on the inside joke. Alex is an anchor for our Morning Blend show. And one day he attended U of A, University of Arizona, the weekly football session with the players. And it was a really good a good segment that he did. But he went up to a couple of players and he asked them kind of off the wall, a little different questions. And one of the questions was, who is the best player in the NFL and why is it Tom Brady? so that's where that comes from. So thanks, Alex, and thanks Tim Barkley, and thanks everybody for watching live here on this Tuesday and also on the recording on the OTT. So for Pat Paris, I'm Jason Barr. Thanks so much everybody for watching, for listening to the Huddle, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday.